Hey guys, it's Leo with Dreaming Tree, and in this video we're going to show you how to put together this beautiful Valentine's Day flower box. And it's actually very simple, and the 3D flower part is actually really fun and very simple, as it's only made up of this one little flower that you just kind of roll together. And I've got my hot glue gun ready to go for that. But the rest of it is just basic construction. It's an 8-sided box, and we've got some cute little embellishments and a faux sort of ribbon thing that we've designed to really kind of pretty this thing up and make it a little bit more elegant. So have everything I need here in front of me, so let's go ahead and get started. Now the top and the bottom of the box, they go together the same way. Okay, so let me just show you here. You'll see that you have 4 segments here and 4 segments here. There's a liner, and then there's the actual lid itself. Okay, the same is true for the top of the box. So I don't need to show you how to put together both. I'm going to put the bottom of the box aside, and we're going to focus on putting together the top of the box. Okay, and as far as the basic construction goes, you do the same thing for the bottom. Okay, so just keep that in mind, because I'm not going to show the bottom of the box. So the first thing I'm doing is just taking and folding everything at the score marks so that this thing is easier to work with and easier to assemble. So you want to make sure you go ahead and do that. And what I like to do while this thing is flat is take advantage of the fact that it's flat and glue my panels down on the side of this thing. Okay, so yours is going to come with 8 panels, so you want to pick some really pretty paper for that and get these glued down. You want to just center them right on your box, okay, on the side of your box there. So get those glued down, okay, and once you have those glued down, we can go ahead and put together the actual box itself. So go ahead and get those in place first, and then we'll go ahead and continue with the next step. Now, before we move on to actually putting together the structure, the top of the box has this top part, and it has a series of score marks on it. Okay, now those score marks are to help you with the placement of these panels. Okay, so there's a small inner cut and then an outer cut. The inner cut, the one that's more towards the center, is for the panels. So you want to kind of just match those up with the little triangle there and then the little triangle to the right. And that is going to help ensure that you've got all these panels lined up properly. Now, I don't have all of mine cut out. I'm only showing you 4, but you're going to have a total of 8 of them. Okay, so you also want to make sure you get that glued down. And then there's another set of score marks that help you with the placement of this little fake little ribbon thing that we created. Okay, and the idea is, and actually I found that they are helpful, but you also want to make sure that you have everything kind of parallel on the edge here too as well. Okay, so once you get those panels glued down, you want to glue these down, glue this whole thing down like so. Okay, so go ahead and do that. So we'll have all of the top of the box kind of put together, and then we can go ahead and get the rest of this thing put together. Okay, so that is what your top should look like roughly. Obviously, you're going to have the other 4 panels in place. And at this point, we can go ahead and put together our box. Okay, just remember again, the bottom of the box goes together the same way. So what I'm going to do is I am going to put glue on this tab here. Okay, and then I'm going to lift this up and fold it over and take that glue and get it out to the edge there, just to make sure that I get a nice clean seam. Okay, line that up perfectly and beautifully, and push that down, and then we can go ahead and flip it down on itself. You know that you've got it lined up when these little tabs here are like perfect. Okay, and then we're going to go ahead and put glue on this tab here. And again, I'm gonna just lift this up, and fold it over, and get that glue out to the edge. I'm gonna just tuck that under and glue that down. Just kind of doing this flat because it makes for a much cleaner assembly if you do it that way. Okay, so there we go. That is perfect. Okay, so now we can kind of start forming our 8 sides. And I didn't give this enough time to dry. I'm kind of rushing through this a little bit. Okay, and we can grab our top, and as you've probably seen me do in past videos, we're going to start with just one of these tabs. And again, making sure that I'm getting glue out to the edge. Doesn't matter which side. I'm going to go ahead and center that and kind of hold it in place for just a few seconds while it begins to set. And you can actually put this down on your table and push down like that. Okay. And then what we're going to do is I'm going to put glue on the rest of these tabs. So always put your fast globs on first, and then I'm going to do my little line on the edge there. And it really helps to have a nice comfortable chair where you're at a really good height, where your head is kind of above the project, just so you can get a really good vantage point. If you take a look at me in my chair here in the studio, I probably should get a higher chair. And then you just kind of push that down and kind of nudge things around until everything fits perfectly, and then you can actually put that down on your table. And if you need to push some of the walls out a little bit to get a perfect alignment, you can do that. Okay, and that looks great. Okay, so there is the top of our box. And again, if you have some areas that didn't glue down properly, you can grab your spatula, or as you've seen in some of my previous videos, just take a little bit of glue and I grab my pick-me-up tool, the little removable part, and you can always just kind of go back under and just kind of touch things up as you go. Okay, and that looks nice. Okay, so we've got the top of the box done. The bottom of the box, again, goes together the same way as far as the construction goes. Now, there is a liner also that you can just put glue on the liner and just pop that inside to reinforce it and strengthen it a little bit. Okay, and we have these little ribbon pieces here that you are going to glue to the side like that. Okay, so you're going to go all the way around 8 times and get that glued into place. Okay, now once you have that glued into place, we have these little hearts here that are going to get glued to the side. I actually pop dotted them. As you can see there, those are just pop dotted right on the side. Okay, and that leaves really just the flower. Now, as you can see here, we did this one in a gold foil, which I also embossed, just to kind of raise that gold foil because it is kind of flat. And what I did actually was I took a pop dot and I just stuck it right in the center like that. And I took these and I just slightly curled them, just with my finger actually. And then I just kind of strategically placed these pieces around the box. Doesn't matter what goes where. It's gonna look great, especially in that gold. I think that gold with the Valentine reds Just looks really great. Okay, so you just kind of pop that in place however you want. You could even cut more of these out if you want. Okay, so just kind of place that anywhere you want. Okay, and there we go. And then once those are all in place, especially with a pop dot, kind of lets you kind of move things around. Anyway, so that's how that works. And again, that just leaves our flower. Now, first thing I want to do is put together our little stamen piece, okay? And what we're going to do is I'm going to take a little skewer and just kind of wrap it around my skewer. Okay, and I'm just using my table for leverage. Just rolling it around. It's just a little hibachi skewer, like the little thing that you use to make shish kebabs. And then you're going to put just a little tiny dot of glue right on the end there and roll that over. And just hold that in place for, I don't know, 30 seconds or so until it gets a good hold. And then you can take and kind of train them out and separate them a little bit just to kind of make them a little more interesting so they're not just all bunched together. Okay, so put that off to the side and let that really set. And now let's take a look at our flower. Okay, so what I did when I was working on this was, first off, I did some light inking on it. Okay, so you definitely want to find your inks. So you do want to, I mean, you don't have to, but I do recommend inking the petals here, and you want to actually ink both sides because you're going to see both the interior and exterior of the flower once it's all done. Now, this is like a brand new ink. It's actually a lot newer than the one that I used when I inked the flower on the original, on the one that you saw on the website. So it's really laying it down kind of heavy, which I'm not a big fan of. I would probably just have to be very gentle with it since it's a new ink. But you know, you can ink to your heart's content. And actually, even if you don't ink, which I don't recommend, I think you should ink it. When you roll it, there's going to be a lot of interesting things going on with all the little shadows inside of the flower. So, but as you can see, just a really subtle inking, and you want to do that on both sides, okay? And then really, it's just a matter of rolling this thing up. And before you roll it up, I would highly recommend, actually, let's see here. It's going to be, yeah. You want to go ahead and kind of train it first before you roll it up. Otherwise, you may end up creasing it. And we don't want any really fine line creases in this. We want it to just kind of be very natural. Okay, and we're not going to do any specific training to any of the individual petals just yet. We're going to wait until this thing is rolled up before we do that. And you definitely want to get a hot glue gun when you do this. And then this little circle here, this is going to be the base that everything gets glued to. Okay, so when I was messing around with this, I found that what I wanted to do was sort of define how big the center is of my flower. Okay, and of course you want to make sure that it's obviously the center of the flower needs to be, you know, smaller than this little area here. So what I did was I just kind of looped it around once like this, just so I could get my finger in there, okay? And I glued, just with regular glue, I glued this to itself to kind of give me like a little anchor point for my thumb. Okay, so I'm just kind of gluing that to itself, and that's going to be like the inside of the flower. So if you can picture the little stamen part in there. And at this point, it doesn't matter which finger you get in there. I'm going to use my thumb. I'm going to wrap this around my thumb. And it's probably not going to be how it's going to end up this time around. I'm wrapping it around my thumb right now just to train the paper so it gets used to the idea of kind of being in close proximity to the rest of the flour. I just want it to be kind of tight. Okay, so we're just gonna wrap it around your thumb. Okay, now as we start to get kind of towards the end here, it may not be as easy to wrap it around your thumb, but try to keep it kind of like that. Okay, so as you can see, it's already kind of taking shape. We've got a pretty decent flour there, okay? And I'm just gonna hold this like this just for a minute, maybe even squeeze a little bit, because watch what happens. Now when we release this, okay, we have like an instant flour. Now it's just a matter of kind of finessing and fine tuning it to get it how we want. And again, this little circular bottom here, that is what we're gonna be gluing this thing to, okay? So what I did was I kind of wrapped it around again, keeping an eye on that base and figuring out just exactly how much I need to roll this up to get everything to kind of fit on that little base that is attached to the flour. Okay, so let's take a look and see how that looks. And you can kind of roll the inside a little bit more. Okay, and I think that looks pretty good. Could probably tighten up the inside a little bit more. So just like that. Okay, so I've got my hot glue gun here, and I'm just gonna start kind of gluing this guy to itself on the inner wall here. Okay, glue guns are always kind of messy. Okay, so I'm just kind of starting to slowly wrap this around by gluing little segments at a time. Okay, get rid of those little loose strands. Okay, and so next I'm gonna put a little glue here, just like that, and begin to kind of glue that segment down. Okay, you don't want it too tight. And also just make sure that you're keeping this bottom part kind of flush as well. Okay, and I'm gonna go kind of like to the other side. Let me get my glue in there, okay. Putting glue down right there. And I'm also kind of watching the screen here on my right, so if I kind of look away for a second, lose my focus, don't poke fun at me. Okay, and this glue dries really quick, so you gotta be quick when you do that. Okay, so that's coming together pretty nicely. So I'm gonna go here now. I gotta get this other glue stick going here. Okay. Pop a little glue right there. Make sure I don't get. Okay, and just kind of get that attached right there. And again, I've seen a lot of people that just kind of like roll these really tight. I kind of didn't like that look, so I'm not gonna roll them up real tight. And put some glue on this side here. And just roll that in. Okay, so far so good. Okay, and a little glue here, just kind of scraping it against the paper there so that I don't get those little strands of hot glue flying off everywhere. And as you can see, our little flour is really starting to take hold here. Okay, so I'm going to go to the other side here, get my glue on there, and glue that down. Again, making sure that the bottom of this is nice and flush. Okay, that's good. that down. And it's nice when there's little gaps in there. It just really creates a lot of interest and shadow and dimension, which is what you want when you're building these things. Okay. So continuing on here, just like that. And get this guy going here. Get him to stick. Just like that. You can see the little flowers really coming together now. Okay. And we're at a point here now where it's pretty much gone as far as we can go. So what I'm going to do is just kind of eyeball this, and it's okay if your flower's larger than this little base, because as long as we have some surface area here to at least kind of get that in place, then you're totally fine. I want to kind of put a little more glue right here, and maybe anchor this part right there. Okay. I want that up more. Okay. So that looks pretty good to me. And now you can kind of flip this little hatch open. And actually, I didn't like where that went. So I'm going to try that one more time here. Let me put some glue right there. And just kind of curve that around and get it exactly where you want it. Perfect. Okay. And at this point, you can go ahead and put glue. Just get some glue all over this little surface area down here, so we can kind of close the bottom of this up. And it's kind of globby. That's okay though. All right, and then just kind of close that up, and you can kind of push that down so it really sticks. Okay, so now it does look a little weird, but that's okay, because we're going to grab our skewer, and at this point it's kind of just have some fun finessing the little petals. Okay, like this one here, I'm going to probably fold that in and then curl these petals out. Okay, actually probably want a little bit of a thicker skewer, or a dowel in this case, and I'm actually just wrapping it around the dowel. It's going to give me a bit of a cleaner look. Okay, and now I'm going to kind of do the same thing with all these petals. And I want to really bend this one out, so I'm just kind of wrapping it around my dowel, and get this one out too. And no two flowers are going to look the same. Okay, so don't worry about what yours looks like compared to mine. I bet you'll probably never be able to recreate the same look in a flower. Okay, so there is my flower, and then all you really need to do at this point is drop a little hot glue in the center. And again, you can spend more or less time finessing this thing however you want, but there is the little stamen portion. Okay, so there's your flower, and actually this this petal here, I kind of don't like how much he comes out, so I'm going to throw a little bit of glue in there and just pop him in a little bit so he's not flaring out as much. Okay, so you get the idea. You can really finesse this however you want. Here's how my first one came out. Okay, as you can see, it's not as tight in the center. So So I hope you guys had fun putting this box together. I know I did, especially with the 3D flower. That was a lot of fun. And I can't wait to see what you guys do with it and what occasion you create it for and who you give it to. So definitely share your photos and your stories with us on Facebook, or you can even email me directly using the contact form on the website. So thank you so much for joining me, and I will see you next time. Stay on top of all things Dreaming Tree and engage with us today. Get the latest news and enter in our giveaways on Facebook. Get inspired by following us on Pinterest. Be the first to see our new product launches on Instagram. Do you prefer Twitter? Yep, we're there too. Watch our beautiful product trailers and assembly tutorials on YouTube. For more information, visit www.3dsvg.com. Live, craft, love, and dream.